Hello everybody, we are going to be working on riveting today, so I want to go ahead and show you how to get set up. So you need a couple things. You'll need your 3 different textured metals. This is the piece that we're going to make. I'll show you that here in just a second. You'll need your rivet punch. You'll need a couple files. You'll need a flat file, and then you'll need your all circular file. You'll also need a saw frame, a saw blade, and your ball peen hammer, as well as your rubber block. And then you can see here we have rivets and jump rings, and you'll want to pull out just a variety of what those are. We will be making this piece today where we actually are combining rivets, which is that tiny little pin that you can see there. And then also we will have some jump rings connecting some of your pieces together so that there's a dangle aspect. And then you can see that we've also connected it to a necklace. Okay, to start this project, you're going to have 3 different kinds of metal, and you're going to pick out 3 different shapes. They can be anything like squares, circles, ovals, rectangles, triangles, but 3 different sizes and 3 different metals and 3 different shapes. So I started by doing that, by cutting those 3 shapes out, and they can be your choice, whatever you'd like. I'm going to show you on the rubber block. So I have a square, a rectangle, and a circle. The way this will lay out is the circle is going to lay on top of the rectangle, and then my square is going to dangle from down below. You might notice that I have already cut out each piece, and then I have also already used my little rivet punch to punch holes in the actual metal. So let me show you where you'll punch holes. You'll punch one hole in the top of this circle. You'll punch 1 hole in the top of this square, and then you'll punch 2 holes, one here and one here at the top and bottom of the rectangle. And then I chose to use a 2 jump ring connection to my leather cord, so I put 2 there. You might choose to do 1. So I now have a minimum of 4 holes, potentially 5 or 6. In addition, I have my tiny little rivet. The rivet looks like a tiny little nail that's hollow inside. That rivet's going to be what we use as a cold connection device. So we're going to start with that aspect. So I'm going to move some things out of the way and show you, again, using your rubber block because you'll be hammering, and you will also have your ball peen hammer has a squared off section and a rounded section. And then remember, I've already used my saw frame. I can move that out of the way, but I do want to have my all circular file nearby because I'll need that, as well as a flat file and some sandpaper just in case. So just to demonstrate how you use the punch, it's like a hole punch. You just position it and punch right through and then pull it back out. Very simple, like a little hole punch. I'm now going to place my rivet inside my top piece, and it will slide right inside the hole. Now what you might notice is your hole might be a little bit too small. So that's why this circle file is really important. Just use it back and forth in a circular motion until you get it to actually be wide enough that the rivet will go right inside. I had already filed mine, so it was the right fit, but you'll have to spend some time to file it. So now place the rivet inside of your hole, and then you'll place it inside the second piece of metal also. So now I have it inside of the first hole, and now I'm going to slide it inside of the second hole. And I'm going to now kind of sandwich those together and position it right in the center of my block. It's now with the point facing up. This is the back of my piece. This is a really important step. I'm going to use my circular file, and I'm just going to kind of go back and forth in a circle. What this is doing is it's kind of widening the mouth of my rivet. I'm using an extra long rivet to show you guys, but you can also use one that's a little bit shorter as long as it passes through both pieces of metal. So again, I'm using this to kind of open up the mouth of the rivet. I'm trying to widen the rivet itself. Now I'm at the point where I'm going to use my rounded head, and I'm going to tap lightly at first and get a little bit more aggressive as I pound it down. What's happening is it's splaying out the top of the rivet. So the rivet hole is here, and it's actually widening the rivet hole to allow it to connect the 2 pieces of metal. So I'm going to continue pounding that down until I get it nice and flat. Okay, I've now flattened it enough that you can actually see that it is flatter there at the top edge of the rivet itself. And now what I'm going to do is use my flat file, and I'm going to actually sand it just a little bit to flatten it out, also to soften it so it doesn't create a burr. If you were to wear this as a pendant, you don't want this part to snag on your clothing or on your skin. So you'll want to flatten it out as much as you can to the level of the actual metal behind. And you can just file that down from all different directions, trying to avoid scratching the metal too much. I realize that there's some texture there, so it's easy to get in there. I'm actually using the rounded side of this flat file just to kind of work within my texture of my metal. And so I'm going to flatten that down until it fits really well. And then I can use a combination of hammering, and I can flip it over if I need to hammer from the other side of the hammer. And again, I'm flattening it so it splays out on the outside and edge of the metal to keep that piece connected to the other. Okay, once I have filed the back enough that I've flattened it down and I've smoothed it out and sanded it and filed it, I can now see that this has created a movable rivet, that the two are now connected through something called a cold connection. Now I'm ready to actually start connecting things via jump rings, and you all have done this before. I'm going to use about 3 jump rings here to connect so that the little chain dangles the square piece from the bottom. So I've actually already connected 3 jump rings together. So just a reminder from using the chainmail technique that we open up the jump rings the same way that we did before, where you use 2 different pliers and then go ahead and open where one comes towards you and the other one slides back. And then I can slide it into the hole. The hole should be big enough. If you find that it's not big enough, then go ahead and use your circular file once again to file it out, but I think it should fit just fine. And then tighten that up. And then I'm going to connect the third one so that it dangles. And remember to rotate it so that the texture is front. You may have noticed that on the back of some of the textured metal, there's a little bit of a blue film. You can just peel that off. It's just a protective layer, but you might have noticed it looks silver on one side. And if you peel it off, it's like a sticker, and you can just remove it. So I'm opening up my jump ring and I'm sliding on my additional textured metal. And what's nice is you can change the size, whatever size you want or shape. You can make this have any variation you want. You do not have to use rectangles or squares like I'm using. I now have connected those 3 jump rings to make the little dangle section, and I'm ready with 2 more open jump rings. I'm going to use the same leather cord that I used for my dog tag because I already have the clasp and the cord ends on there. You can make a new one. And I'm now going to put those 2 jump rings. Again, you can create a connection of 2, or you can create a connection of 1, or be creative. This is your choice. I'm going to slide that on, and then I'm just going to slide the cord right in there as well. It's a little bit of a tight fit at first, but it'll slide nicely on there. Remember, this is a slide pendant. And then I'll close my jump ring up. And then I'll do the same thing for the second one as well. Okay, once you have your cord on, I have my 2 jump rings, you are done. You've now created a cold connection with jump rings as well as the cold connection with the rivet. And just a reminder that we're trying to work towards something a little bit more advanced. So this one here shows you 4 different layers of metal with different rivets holding different sections together. So this could be a final project for you. This again is a slide pendant. You can see the hole there, and it slides just over a chain of some sort or a leather cord.